On today's episode, we're going to meet with my editor, Tim, to learn why everyone should know how to edit just a little bit. Whether you're a firefighter or a ballerina or a painter, we think that it's important that you know how to edit just a little bit, and we'll show you why and maybe a couple of tips that you can take home with you. Right, Tim? Hi, Tim. Where are you going? I think I know. Come on, let's go. I'm pretty sure I know where he is. If I had to guess, probably in here. Come on, let's go look for him. Gotta be here somewhere. Oh, I see him. There he is. Hi. Tim? What are you doing?
I'm shopping for lights.
Yeah, but we gotta go.
Yeah, but did you see this one? How bendy this is? This is way cooler than
I
editing.
see it, but come on, we gotta go, okay? Okay, let's go. Hi.
Hi. I was browsing through those lights.
We're.
Yeah, I was having fun until I was rudely interrupted.
Well, we have something important to talk about today, and it's editing. So, tell me a little bit why you would ever choose to do something that is so boring.
Well, it can be boring, but in most cases, you're taking something that's going to be just recorded raw film, and you get to like shape it into whatever narrative you want. You get to be creative and create like the story and the mood, and you're basically playing with people's feelings.
So, then, let me ask you this. Why would a person who, let's just say a CPA, for example, why would they want to know how to edit?
People have really interesting lives. Like even the benign stuff that people are just like it's the day-to-day life kind of thing. They can have something to say. They can have something to show people. People can learn from them. I follow like on TikTok, YouTube, people that have what most would consider like really boring day-to-day jobs. Like I follow a septic guy. He runs a septic company, but the guy is amazing in front of the camera. He always has something very wise to say. He's an amazing boss, and he's just very entertaining.
Okay, so I think I'm following here. So, editing is kind of like a medium through which people can tell stories or send a message to whatever their target market is. Perhaps you are a business owner who happens to know that their niche prefers to be sent messages in a certain way. And editing is how you make that storytelling more fun, more interesting, and keep people's attention. Because let's face it, nowadays, people are being bombarded by media, advertisements, everything. And to get even a sliver of their time or attention takes something special.
Right. And the thing is, you look at the top TV shows that are like reality shows, and it's all like watching people bake stuff.
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
Or, survivalist stuff. If you have something to say and like maybe a philosophy while you're doing what you're doing, it makes it all the more interesting. And people tend to gravitate toward just the raw creativity that people have and like the passion that they have for whatever it is that they're doing.
Okay, so why don't we do this? Can you tell us a little bit about maybe like one simple editing technique or something of that matter, like how a person who has no experience editing can get into it? Is there a good software for a beginner to work with? And what's the first steps on their journey to learning how to edit, and where can they learn how to do that?
Now you have a lot more available to you than you did even a few years ago. Editing doesn't necessarily have to be you have a computer and a studio and a good camera and like all this software to be able to edit it. Now TikTok is like one of the easiest ways to edit stuff. You can do some of the same things that people are doing in an editing software on TikTok, on Instagram, just recording with your phone. You don't need super fancy stuff to do it. As far as like normal software for the computer, I prefer Final Cut Pro. I've been editing it in Final Cut for about 15 years plus.
Yeah, but let's be fair. No one's gonna spend $2,000 on a MacBook and then another grand on software so that they can edit their TikToks.
Right.
How can someone who, let's just say, they have a dance studio and they want to film dance recitals for the parents to have, and maybe they want to spice it up? What's a good place for them to start?
They could do DaVinci Resolve. That's free software that you can download. There's a paid version that usually comes with like buying equipment, like their cameras and stuff. It has a little bit of a steep learning curve, but the positive side of that is there are a ton of resources online. You can go on YouTube and there's thousands of hours of tutorials to teach you how to edit properly in DaVinci. Or you can just start playing around with it and figure it out on your own. Even on your phone, there's iMovie for the iPhone, and then Final Cut. They just released a Final Cut version for your iPad. So if you have an iPad, you can edit in Final Cut on your iPad.
Wow, that's actually super cool.
Yeah.
Let's just say I was giving an interview or a monologue and I was talking and I kind of stumbled over my words a little bit, and maybe I have a hard time. Maybe I have a hard time getting that message out. People have a hard time kind of following things when, maybe the speaker isn't confident or doesn't appear confident or doesn't sound confident. Is there anything that you could do to that monologue that I just gave to the camera to make it more interesting for someone watching it, make it more effective for someone to see?
Well, let's try it out.
Here you can see what Tim is doing is removing dead space from my monologue. Removing that dead space makes the message clearer. It makes it easier to understand, and it makes it more enjoyable for the listener. Nobody wants to listen to someone stuttering and tripping over their words. Tim said I did a little bit too good of a job struggling to speak because it was extremely difficult to edit. Sorry about that, Tim. Now he's sort of clipping together the pieces of the conversation, removing ums and buts and breaths. My words a little bit. You'll see here, he's noticed a kind of a strange cut. So what he's doing is adding an adjustment layer. What this adjustment layer does is pushes the camera in a little bit. That's why we shoot in 4K, because you can push in, there's so much more data. Make it almost seem as though there's a second camera just shooting from one. So what he's done is use this pushover to cover up maybe a place where he's removed an Sometimes blinking into the future mid-sentence can feel weird, but you can cover that up by moving the camera at the same time. Let's just say I was giving an interview or a monologue and I was talking and I kind of stumbled over my words a little. Maybe I have a hard time getting that message out. People have a hard time kind of following things when... I think I do want to ask you a little bit about why did you get into editing in the first place? And, is that your favorite part of the filmmaking process? I know that, editing isn't just only what you do. And I know that this video is about editing, but can you just speak to what drove you to become an editor?
I've always been interested in filmmaking. Back when I started watching like the really hokey 80s campy movies, and how it always felt like it was something that I would love to do. And then I started watching more movies and the behind the scenes of how they're made and everything, which got me really interested in budget filmmaking. Halloween was probably one of the first ones where I watched the behind the scenes and was like, I could do that. because they were doing some crazy things behind the scenes because they were working on such a small budget. Like they brought leaves in from another state because they were filming in California, and they brought them in plastic bags and put them on people's lawns and had to pick them up in between scenes. The fact that they were doing that and the actors were helping to do that, it was like, okay, that seems like the type of filmmaking that I could do.
Would you say that you got into editing because it was a passion that drove you towards it, or was it out of necessity, or was it some other reason?
I always felt like it was something that I had to try and do to prove to myself that I could do it. You watch the fancy movies and you see all the special effects, and it's really interesting and fun. But it always seemed like I could see through the effects and kind of see how they did things, and I would try and figure out things myself. And that was one of the reasons why I tried to prove it to myself, and I did.
You know, that's an interesting thing because this video is meant for a teacher who is trying to maybe spice up their lesson plan somehow. But naturally, there'll probably be some filmmakers that are watching this. And it's funny because there are a lot of new apps now that you can get to add in easy special effects and things like that. But I think one of the most important things to take away from this is that editing is one of those things that it's a skill set that is kind of outside of a lot of normal people's skill sets, but it doesn't have to be. It's a lot easier to get started than a lot of people think. And that's why we're here, because I think it's important to encourage you to expand your skill set. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, whatever it is that you're trying to start for the first time or maybe get better at for your own business, improving your skill set, being able to rely on yourself for little things, that's only going to make your message stronger, more interesting, and in the end, either draw more attention to the message you're trying to send or make you more business. Who doesn't want that? Tim, let me ask you something. What's one of the most overlooked types of edits that are very easy to do that people don't realize that's it's very important for almost every piece of work they're doing?
Probably sound and music. Two of the things that people forget all the time. Your sound and your music set the mood and the tone, and it's half of your movie. Video is half of your movie, and audio is half of your movie. And if you forget one, you lost the audience. If you've got a scene where somebody's walking into a room and it's supposed to be really tense and really dark and scary, you have to find the right music for it. And that's why a lot of movies will compose their own music for it, because it follows the mood. But when you're looking online and you're looking for stock music, or if you're going to compose your own music, it has to fit the action that's on screen. If you look back at Halloween, the original movie, people thought it sucked until they added the music to it. It went from being a boring movie about a guy in a mask walking around and following people really slowly to this horrifying movie where somebody's being brutally stalked and murdered and all this other stuff. The music changes the film.
So the music can change the tone, the meaning, and the effectiveness of your message. It's important for the audio between the two of us to be good too, because people don't want to listen to messy audio. I'm sure during this interview you can give an example of what annoying interview audio sounds like versus clean, crisp audio.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. You can hear echoing off of the room that we're in.
Yeah.
And now listen to the difference in the audio. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. That sounds a lot different. And it's because you've got the mics near us, picks up the audio better, you can filter it better. Most people have a $5,000 camera when they go out and they buy and they invest in something, and then they completely forget about microphones.
It seems like cell phones have kind of brought video production into the hands of everyday consumers. Is there anything that shooting on a phone you should look out for to try to match footage that you might get from a $5,000 camera?
Top three things I would say would be try and stabilize your phone somehow. Holding it like this, that's what everybody expects, and it's going to be very shaky and stuff. If you can afford a camera stabilizer like a gimbal, they're like $150 now. They're not that expensive. You can film with the default photos, the camera app on the iPhone, but there are a ton of other apps that you can download. One is Filmic Pro. That's a really good one. That one is it gives you all of the manual controls that you would normally have on an expensive camera that you can play around with and learn how exposure works and frame rate works and shutter speed and how all those affect your image. Having a plan, like if you're trying to film a movie, I would say the big thing is, rehearse a couple times before you go through and do your stuff. You would be surprised at the amount of takes that we do just in this video, in these videos that we throw out because, we screw up or oops or bloops or whatever you want to
Or
call it.
lose our train of thought or step on each other's lines.
Yeah, there's probably enough to make a supercut of us just staring awkwardly at each other trying to remember what we were going to say in the scene before, so.
That was awkward for you because I thought I felt something.
I mean, we did kind of have a connection.
Tim, I want to thank you so much for chatting with us today and for doing some more interesting and difficult edits that I'm sure people loved. Where can we find your work?
You can find my production company on noxluna.com, and you can find us on YouTube at Nox Luna Films, and we're pretty much on all the other socials under Nox Luna Films.
Dude, Tim, thank you so much. I had so much fun doing this today, and I hope you guys did too. See you next time.